Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Judy Shields here. Today we welcome singer, songwriter, and Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame member who happens to have 7 number 1 hits under his belt, Kent Blazy. Hey, Kent, thanks for joining us again. It's good to see
Well, thanks for having me again.
you. We love
Always a
it.
pleasure.
Yeah, so you've been busy this last year. We talked to you like last October.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing a new record, but I guess I kind of got inspired. I had two people that were very important to me in my early 20s pass away last year.
Oh, sorry.
And so I wanted to honor them by writing a song about each one of them. And before I knew it, I had a whole record and kind of interesting. And then I was thinking, well, I don't know if I should do a new record. So Lee Francis, who is my kind of band leader, chart maker, he plays bass for John Party. He came over and I played him this stuff, and he said, "Yeah, you need to do a record." So I trust Lee, and we went in and did it, and I'm really glad we did. It's getting amazing feedback, and people are saying it's real because that's what it was. It's my life, and the title's My Life So Far. So we'll see what happens now.
I know that's an amazing title because we always talk about titles, where it comes from, and I can see where, you got the title for this album. A lot of songwriting there.
And then I have to ask, what else is possible now?
Well, have you written a book yet?
Some people have been pushing me about that, but I haven't. Have to change some names, I think.
I bet. So the album, we'll talk about that. So where did you record the album at?
I always pretty much record at Sound Emporium in Nashville, Tennessee. They've got an amazing A room, they call it. And all the players, every time we play there, they're so inspired by being in that room that I just aim to book it every time I can to get in there and do that. And we all get in one room. We all play live. We got 10 songs in one day. And then the next day I overdub electric guitars and stuff. But that's how good of musicians they are, that they come in and just play with all their heart and soul. And at the end of the day, we usually have 10 songs.
My goodness, I always like to find out who the studio musicians are. Who are they that played on
Well,
this?
Lee Francis is the bass player.
Oh, nice.
He's on every record I do.
Mhm.
And he also helps me with the charts to get everything ready for when we go into the studio.
Yeah.
And he's the leader of John Party's band, so he kind of
Oh,
knows how to rope everybody in together. And then Kevin Murphy is the drummer, and he's the drummer for John Party's band. I always like to have a drummer and bass player that have worked together a lot.
yeah.
And then Steve Allen is the electric guitar player, acoustic guitar player. He's played on everything I've done, and uh, he's like a brother from another mother. I can tell him we kind of grew up with the same music. I'd say I need something kind of like this, and he does it. And he was in a big pop band in the '80s, 2020. That if you go Google 2020 on American Bandstand, you'll see him up there playing their hits, and that's kind of cool. And he moved from LA to Nashville because his wife was in the music business, and
Oh,
lucky to have hooked up with him. And we've just had a lot of fun together since then.
I bet it'd be great to be in one of those sessions to hear all you guys putting this all together. It must be amazing.
It's pretty amazing. It always amazes me every time how good these players are in Nashville. And they just make it easy, they make it fun. And, the end of the day comes too quick almost.
Wow, that's a great gig. So I understand these are all written by you. There's 11, but the 11th one was co-written by someone else, huh?
Yeah, this young guy I'm hoping can get something going with his career. His name's Garth Brooks.
I know, I haven't really heard much about him. Must be a
Yeah, I
great
know.
guy.
It's really interesting. I have this guy that I've never met. I've just emailed, and he lives in Brazil, but he speaks Portuguese.
Wow.
And so he wanted me to help him translate If Tomorrow Never Comes to Portuguese. And this was probably 10 years ago or whatever. And it took about 3 months to get it where it worked
Yeah.
both ways. And we became friends over email. And so he sent me the track of If Tomorrow Never Comes when he got it done. And he said, I want you to sing a version of it. And then I want to sing a duet version. So we did that. And I guess it did pretty good. And so he just cut a version of this kind of hidden song of Garth and mine called For a Minute There. And he sent me the tracks. And I thought he just wanted me to okay the tracks. And he said, No, I want you to sing it. And they did such an amazing job. You know, the Brazilian musicians, they play country, but it's a totally different country, you
Yeah.
know, but it's it was almost elegant, I guess. And so at the end of the album, I kind of went crazy and got into a Yardbirds thing. And so after that, I thought I need something else kind of to solidify the end of the album, and he let me put that on the album. So that was the only one the guys didn't play on, but those guys who played on it did an amazing job. So I've never met this guy, but he's always sending me stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Now, see, that's an amazing story. Would have been not so good if people didn't hear that about that song, you know? Thank
Yeah,
you.
it just kind of came out of nowhere like the rest of the album. And I was thinking, what am I going to put on the end of the album? And then he sent me that, and that kind of solidified it.
So what did Garth think about it?
You know, he loved it. He said, I can't believe you sound that good.
That's a true friend, isn't it?
Yeah, we always tease each other, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, he really liked it too. And, you know, it's funny because it was just a little sleeper thing on one of his Lost Sessions records that he did. And so now it's kind of got a whole new life.
oh, that's great. Hopefully they'll be playing it down at his bar. That was pretty fun to go down there and check that out when I was in Nashville in June.
Yeah, it's a nice place, you
Yeah.
know. It's we got to do a couple shows there last month because the Bluebird got shut down. They had roof problems, and so Garth and Trisha were kind enough to let us use Trisha's floor to do the shows there, and it was really
Nice.
a cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I would have loved to be there for that time. That's pretty cool. Something different, I guess, right?
Yeah, it always seems like it is. Like this last weekend, I was lucky enough that I was supposed to do a show with my band at the Bluebird on the Friday night, and they called me up and said, "Can you do both nights, Friday and Saturday?" So my band played 2 nights at the Bluebird. That was totally unexpected, but a lot of
Ah,
fun, especially over
yeah.
the holiday weekend. There were people there from Germany and Switzerland and Scotland and, Canada, Vancouver. It's just amazing where people come to the Bluebird.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. And for it to have been closed, I was like, really? I said, so now I have to come back just to go to
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely have to come back. We do there's an airport here where I live called Ontario Airport, and they now have nonstop Delta from Ontario to Nashville. So I'm like, oh, I might be coming a little more often.
Yeah, that's pretty good when that happens.
Yeah.
So, because you used to have to land in what was it, Ontario or something before you went to LA.
Yeah.
And so that kind of made it a long trip, but that's awesome.
So that'll be nice now. Well, let's talk about your album, My Life So Far. Let's go over each of we talked about number 11. So let's go through 1 through 10 and let's talk about tell us where the title came from and the inspiration as to why you wrote it. So number 1 is One Big Love.
Right. Well, my wife is a big inspiration. We're coming
Yeah.
up on the 13th year of marriage, and
Oh,
she just inspires me all the time. And this is just kind of one of her stories about what she does every day for me. And it's all the little things that add up to one big love. So
oh.
I always have to run the songs by her, to make sure she's not embarrassed by them or anything. But we'll get to that on another song. But
Okay.
it's all about her, and how she's changed my life so drastically for the better.
We
So
love stories like that.
you got to celebrate it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. 13 is my lucky number. Taylor Swift stole that from me.
I know you got to watch her.
Jeez, that girl. Oh, so number 2 is Feeling Alive Again. That's a cool title.
Yeah, so my late wife died in 2009 of a brain tumor, and so I
Oh,
kind of went down the rabbit hole, and so this song was kind of um, a celebration of finally coming back to who I was and where I wanted to go. And it's a lot to do with being out in nature. I spent a lot of time just out walking my dog in this park nearby, and you slowly start finding yourself again. And that's what it's about.
yeah, that darn cancer. Oh, condolences for that
Oh,
loss.
yep,
I'm glad you found true love again.
I really did.
That's
Lucky man.
very good. Very good. Number 3 is Thank Him Every Day.
Well, it's kind of funny. The woman I'm married to now, I joke I've been in all her weddings. We were friends a long time, and so I always thought it'd be cool to write a song about the person who let the person go that let you get together with them. you
Oh,
know. And
yeah.
somebody else I was talking to said, I've never heard a song coming from that angle, but it's like if she'd stayed with whoever she was with, we wouldn't be together. So it's kind of a funny song of, I'll never let him know, but I'm thankful every day you let her go.
Yeah, I kind of didn't put that together. Now that you're saying that, I kind of can use that in my life right now because I'm kind of going trying to date someone who lost someone a few years back, and he's wondering whether he wants to go that route or not. And I'm like, oh, maybe I
Well,
have to
just
send this to
just
him.
give him time and let him
Yes,
breathe. And you can play him this song that I'm living proof that it can be an amazing thing.
and we knew each
He,
other
he's
before
about
that.
ready for a magic being like you to show up, but you
Oh,
can just
thank
say,
you.
well, here's somebody else who's been through it, and he's very grateful that he's on the other side of it now.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Number four, can't sleep with you.
So I'm on the road a lot playing, and sometimes if I'm going to somewhere like a beach or mountains or something, my wife will go with me. But if I'm going to, and no slant on Milwaukee or something like that, or South Dakota in the middle of February, she's really not going to go with me to those gigs. So, it's kind of hard when you're used to sleeping with somebody and then you're in this bed all by yourself. And so I
Aw.
have to say, she wasn't really happy with this song. And so when I was with Lee and we were kind of running the songs down, and she was in another room and she heard me playing this song for him, and she said, "You're not going to record that song, are you?" And I said, "Well, see what Lee has to say." And Lee said, "Well, I'm on the road all the time with John Party. I'm always missing my wife when I get into a lonely bed, so I think it's great." And she went, "Well, okay then." That's how it ended up on the record. And she said, "You can't play this out live when you play." I'm like, "Okay, that fair enough."
Well, I guess a lot of spouses, whether they're male or female, that are married to country stars or movie stars will probably appreciate this song, right? Because
Yeah, or
it's
even
true.
like traveling salesmen,
Yes,
businessmen,
that's true.
businesswomen, it's like all of a sudden they're there, and then well, even if you're not on the road and they're on the road, it's the same way, it just doesn't feel right at first when they're gone. So that's kind of what it was about.
You know, I can this might be an anthem for the military, the
Oh
husbands and
God,
wives that
yes.
are at home, right?
There you go. See,
Yeah,
that's why
see,
I'm
you got to push
talking
that
to you.
out there.
Yeah, you never know who these songs are going to reach. That's what's so
Yes.
crazy. And
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, put that out there. Okay, the next one is Who Really Rescued Who? I love that title.
Well, that's kind of the same thing about when my now wife and I first started dating. I'd known her for a long time, and I knew she didn't want to get married again. And after what I'd been through, I said, "Well, I'm not going to ever get married again." So here we are, these two people dating each other, and neither one of us wanted to get married, and we got married. So
Oh,
it's kind of
congratulations.
funny. Well, she rescued me from what she was going to do, and I rescued her. And then she found me this little labradoodle that
Oh,
needed a home. We found her on Craigslist, actually. So the second
yeah.
verse is about finding this dog and rescuing her. And you know, uh, she really needed a home. She had nothing, and but then we fell in love with her. So it's like, who rescued who? So it's kind of a
Oh.
thank you to the universe for how things show up.
Oh, I just rescued a dog too when I got back from Nashville, a white boxer, and he's just beautiful, 2 years old. Someone abandoned him they left him in an abandoned kennels up in the desert. I mean, can you imagine? How could somebody
No, I
do that?
really can't. I mean, the other little dog that we have that she brought into the marriage, he was wandering around in a parking lot somewhere in Tennessee, for weeks, and it's just that somebody just dropped him off, and it's just kind of weird. But
Oh,
boy, I've seen some white boxes, and they are beautiful. So
yeah,
congratulations.
his name is Chance.
I
So
like it. That's a good name.
yeah, so We'll have to get you to write a song about him. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Please do. It'd
Chance
be
the dog.
great.
He's got some black spots on him on the bottom. I go, he must be crossed with the Dalmatian with those black
Yeah,
spots.
probably it sounds like the Little Rascals dog or something,
Yeah, there you
one
go.
black eye and the rest of them was white. Kind of interesting.
For Halloween, I'll have to put a black around his eye so he could be the RCA dog or something, right?
There you go.
Thank you for that. Okay, the next one is This Song's for You. Oh,
So this is one of the people that passed away, and the song's pretty self-explanatory. But I
yeah.
had been the fastest little kid in grade school, and this guy moved from California, and the first time we raced, he beat me, and I'd never been beaten before, and so we got to be friends. We found out we were born one day apart.
Oh,
Uh, Stayed friends all this time. Started a band when we were in college, and went to Woodstock Pop Festival together. And
oh,
we had a great band, and I think we probably could have got a record deal. We had four piece, everybody played and sang, and we had this really big gig, and we didn't have cell phones back then, and he took off with his girlfriend to move to LA without telling anybody. So here
oh,
we are at this gig, and we're now a three-piece band where we were a four-piece band, and so that was kind of how that story evolved. I wanted to honor him because he was such a talented person, but he never wanted to come to Nashville or whatever. So he just ended up playing smoky bars his whole life. And I think he could have been so much more. But everybody chooses what they choose.
yeah, that's true. It's called a choice, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And sometimes we have to bite the bullet and make that choice.
Exactly. And sometimes you got to take a chance, but sometimes it's better being a big fish in a little pond. So that's kind of what he chose.
Oh my gosh. Number seven, Still My Only Child.
Okay, so this was about the first girl that I was really serious about, and everybody thought we were going to get married. And I knew she wanted to have some kids, and she wanted to have a little farm. We were from Kentucky, and I knew if that happened, I wouldn't be able to pursue my music business. I wouldn't be a good father to somebody if I was gone all the time. And I wouldn't be a good father to somebody if I gave up what I really wanted to do to be a father. And so she and I broke up.
Oh,
And I actually introduced her to a friend of mine, and they got married. And what was so funny is about 5 years later, I ran into her at Christmas back in Lexington, Kentucky, and she had two little kids. And I had a song that was going up the charts, Headed for a Heartache by Gary Morris. And
oh,
so we talked, and it was like we both got what we wanted. And I've never had kids. I never wanted kids. I've had two stepchildren, but it's kind of a song about me still being my only child. And, it's the old joke of you go tell your mom, I want to be a musician when I grow up. And she says, honey, you can't do both. So,
oh,
uh, that's kind of what it was. And what's so funny was we kind of debuted this song with the guys in Party's band about a month before we went in and cut. And this woman who was probably in her 60s came up to me and she said, I love that song. I need a copy of that song. Where do I get a copy of that song? And I said, well, it's not done yet, but if you give me your email address, I'll mail it to you when I get it done. And I did. And she just was
oh.
over the moon that I sent it to her. But I wanted to ask her, well, what's your story that meant so much to you? Because I never would have dreamed a woman would have come up to me that age and said that's the song that she likes out of all the ones we played. So I know there's a story behind it, whether she gave up a child or didn't marry because of that or whatever, but that's the power of music, how you reach people you don't even know you're reaching. And that's always my target, to come up with something like that.
That's why we love you songwriters so much. You change our lives for the better, no matter what. I mean, songs that you need when something's happening in your life, like me, I listen to music all the time. Even when I'm working, I've got it on my radio.
Right.
Even when I was in school, I was doing my homework with music. It's just always been a part of my life and always been country. I like all kinds of music, but country's my number one. And it's just they come into your life when you least expect it, and they make you cry, but a good cry. I love those good cries too.
Well,
Happy
that's what
songs.
these days I don't hear on country radio very many pull over to the side of the
I
road songs,
know,
I
right?
call them. And the 90s were full of these
Oh,
amazing songs that you just walk away, Joe, or I'll remember
yes.
when, or Ships That Don't Come In, things
Uh,
like The Dance, and I miss those on country radio. But
yeah.
Robert Orman, who's a critic here in Nashville, he reviewed my last record and said I was Americana. So I guess I am, because I don't know what country is anymore.
It's true, isn't it? I keep seeing the Americana and it's like, oh, stop calling it that. It's country. But I see where that's happening, more. And thank goodness for Sirius Radio when you can have prime country and have the 90s and then Willie's Roadhouse. I like to listen to the older stuff too. So I love those two stations for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, they're providing a source for people to be able to hear these things still, and that's amazing because country radio now is just all about what's happening right now, and uh, the rest of it's kind of been forgotten. So it's good to have those things to turn to.
I needed to upgrade I had a 2008 Ford Edge. I needed to upgrade it. So I bought a 2018 and I got that year because it's the last one that had a CD player. I have to have a CD player because I love my CDs and I've got to get one of yours because I love to pop it in there when I'm driving and listen to the songs on the CD.
Well, the guy who masters my records, he said, because I always get CDs made, and some people don't even get them made anymore,
I
but
know.
he said, this is still the best sounding format there is, it's
Yes.
it's the real format. It's not squashed with compression or anything like that. And to me it always seemed like there was a conspiracy that in 2016 they quit making or putting them in cars.
Yes.
2018, you're lucky, but
I
they
was
really
lucky.
the cutoff date. And that was the cutoff date they quit making CDs like they had before. So uh what did people do that had thousands of CDs and they can't get them to play in a car anymore? But they give you 3 free months for a subscription to
Yes.
something, you buy a new car.
Yeah.
And it really hurt the songwriting business because songwriters get paid. Say you and I wrote a song for George Strait, it was on a CD, you and I would get paid when the CD sold. And now with you can have a song on a George Strait record, but if nobody downloads it or it doesn't ever get streamed, you really don't get paid. So
Oh,
it's a whole new world. And like I saw where Snoop Dogg had 1 billion hits on Spotify and he made $45,000.
what?
Yeah, that's how bad it's gotten for songwriters. And
Oh,
young songwriters coming to town would get paid on a draw, like is almost like taking a loan out to write for a company, but they would get paid on the mechanicals when they got a cut
oh.
and the money came in. That's how they would pay for being able to write for a company, and that doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what they do. I think they drive Ubers and are waiters and waitresses and stuff like that. But it's a
Oh.
changed world from what it was.
That's sad to hear. I love the CDs and whenever they say they have one, and of course I love vinyls. If they have vinyls, it's like, okay, I want one of those. I just got in the mail the other day, Lee Greenwood's American vinyl, red, white, and blue. It was beautiful. And I was like, I met him in June and they sent that to me and it was amazing. So I love vinyls as well.
Well, I'd be glad to send you one of my CDs.
I love it. Sounds good. Let's talk about the other ones. Number 8 is The Devil's Music.
So I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, and I went to a Christian church, I guess you would call it. My wife's dad was a Baptist minister, and when I told her about this preacher, she said, "Well, he was more of a Baptist preacher than a Christian preacher, but he had his own points of view about everything. And when he found out I was starting to play guitar, he just didn't like that at all, because I was listening to rock and roll and he thought that was the devil's music. And they thought country music was the devil's music too. And so he gave me this big long lecture about, you don't want to do this. You need to give up the guitar. And
Oh,
uh, I didn't do that.
thank
And
goodness.
like the song says, the first gig I played was at a stripper bar. This other guy who was the leader of the band, he booked us there, and I didn't know where we were playing. I had never played a gig before. So here it is in a stripper bar. It's like, okay, I got a long way to go to get to where I want to go. But that's kind of what it's about is, you have to listen to your heart and not listen to what other people tell you about what you need to do. And a lot of people gave up because of parents or
Yes.
ministers or whatever, and Some of them are still calling up and saying, boy, I wish I'd went ahead and did what you did. But, it takes courage to go against everybody who thinks you're doing the wrong thing. And for a long time, I'd have people come up when I was playing in bands and stuff and say, well, what's your day job? And I'm like, well, my day job's writing songs. And then I play in a band at night because that's how I make my money. But, I, I have to work on writing my songs. If I had a day job, I wouldn't be able to write songs with people.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, back when I was in high school, I was in a program called ROP in nursing, and I was good. I was good at it, smart, did really well. And but you know what? I had problems with death. I hadn't experienced it. My grandparents were alive. Everyone in my life was alive. So, and I was like 18. I did it from 16 to 18, and yet I couldn't handle it. So I had the nurse who worked with me plus the doctor say, if you can't handle death, you can't do this. And I
Well, yeah,
wish they had told me something different because I regretted that too much to this day because I like caregiving as well, but here that's what I wanted to be was a nurse and I let them talk me out of it.
I know. Well, if it makes you feeling better, you're doing caregiving now by bringing people music and,
Oh,
uh, you know, letting people like me be able to be interviewed so it gets out there to people maybe we wouldn't reach and people hearing these songs that maybe touch them that they wouldn't have otherwise. So you're doing a great service in another kind of way.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I just want everybody to, whatever type of music you like. It's music is good for our heart, our soul, everything. I can't imagine not having music in my life,
I know, and the interesting thing is like playing at the Bluebird these 2 nights, COVID killed live music.
It did.
There's some
It,
great places that we used to play here in Nashville that didn't make it through, but I
ugh,
think people appreciate live music more now than they did pre-COVID. And I know the musicians appreciate being able to play for people again, because it was such a weird time of not having that interaction with people and getting the feedback both ways, and so exactly what you're saying is true. And now I think live music means more than anything because of not having it for that 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and I'm glad all of our places around here in LA and Hollywood area, they all survived at least, the Forum and all these places that we go just to hear music is still, around that they didn't, they had to close, but that they got to reopen,
Right.
and have all
Well, and
this.
luckily the Bluebird made it. They were
Yes.
really
Oh,
struggling there for a while, but they hung on there when some of the other ones couldn't.
yeah. So we're glad for that. Next one is Nature of the Beast.
That's kind of about things I've witnessed in the music business, about some people that are really talented that get into these real bad record deals or real bad publishing deals. And it's been that way, since we've had record deals. I think you hear
Yeah.
about all the black musicians in the 50s who never got paid. They would buy them a Cadillac and say, here, that's what you made.
Mm.
And they really owed them millions of dollars. And so it's
Uh,
kind of looking back on that because I've had some friends that uh, should have been big stars that aren't because of the way the music business lined up at the time. And it wasn't that they didn't have everything it takes. It's just they didn't have somebody behind them that they needed to have behind them.
yeah. Seems like quite a few people I interview are independent, and that seems like that's the ways a lot of them seem to want to go.
Well, it's come down to, especially for younger artists, older artists, they don't even care about anymore, so you
Yes.
kind of have to be independent. But some of these, I did a show with a girl last year at the Bluebird who's on TikTok, and she's had these songs that have done really well. And she said, I don't even want a record deal. She said, I post my songs on TikTok, people buy them. I go out and tour around the country, people show up because of TikTok, and it really kind of makes a label irrelevant in a lot of ways. And then the crazy thing these days with record labels, it's not how talented you are, it's how many social streams, media streams you have
Wow.
that designate whether you're going to get a record deal or not. How many socials do you have? That's the first question they
Oh,
want. And if you have millions, then they're interested in doing something for you. But basically, you did all the work beforehand. And so you're trading being able to be on a record label for all the hard work you did to get to where you are. And then once they have you, who knows if they'll work as hard for you as you work for yourself. So that's the other thing that I've witnessed.
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be something that you've seen through your career of what it is today, what it was back then, right? What a
Right.
difference.
It's a totally different world.
Yeah. And
You
you have to
know,
stay up with it.
yeah, I go around and give lectures, I guess, a lot of different places to younger songwriters. And what I tell them now is totally different from what I would have told them 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
one once I was at one college and I was doing a class and I asked what instruments people played, and there was not one person in the group who played an instrument. They wrote everything on a computer. And it was like, the old got to put in 10,000 hours on whatever. Well, these people were just getting and making sounds on a computer and turning them into songs. And I thought, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's a totally different world from what I experienced.
Yeah, no kidding. Nothing like the live instruments and a live band, like you said, listening to it live.
Yeah, the chemistry of three or four or five people in a room all playing together, you can't have anything else show up like that, and some of the greatest records that were ever done, especially in the 60s and 70s, were like that, where everybody was one room playing, and it had a magic to it because you're watching everybody else now. Somebody will send a part over and somebody else will send another part over, and it just didn't have that magic of everybody being in the room together.
Yeah, and this whole AI thing scares me.
Well, me too. I think what they're basically going to do is try to have it
Yeah,
where they don't have to pay any songwriters or artists and just say, make me something like Garth Brooks or make me something
right.
like Jimi Hendrix or whatever, and uh, it's pretty scary.
It is. Well, we'll just keep getting your stuff.
There you go. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Let's talk about number 10, Empty House.
So I had that title and it was kind of about my late wife after she passed away, and here I was by myself. And I know it's the same way for people that have had pets and they live by themselves, and the pet passes away, and it's like, wow, this is really strange. And so it started out being a sad song, and I thought, how would Buddy Guy do this? Or how would some blues guy do it? So I basically turned it into a blues song where it was kind of funny, and still accurate for anybody who's come home to an empty house. And then at the end of it, I kind of had been listening to the Yardbirds, and they had an album that had Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton on it, and it was called Having a Rave Up with the Yardbirds. And what they would do in England is they play these songs, but then they just start jamming and going crazy. So I said to the band, well, when we get to the end of the song, let's just have a rave up. And so none of that was rehearsed. We just did it on the spot, and it was so much fun and just kind of crazy. And I don't think anybody recorded anything like that in Nashville that day. And it was pretty wild. But then, I've gotten feedback from people that have come home to an empty house. The one guy said, I came home and my wife had moved everything out but left the cat. And the cat was in the middle of the living room just screaming away. And I thought, well, at least you left the cat. And then another guy said the same thing. He came home and all the furniture and everything was gone, and she didn't even leave a note. She just left. And he said, I can identify with this empty house. So it's just crazy how you reach people writing these songs.
Yeah. And like I said, after hearing about all of the songs, your titles, and why, it's like I could see why you have My Life So Far as the title because, well, you've been through a lot.
Yeah, I've been through a lot, and I've come out on the other side and want people to know that there's hope on the other side of just about everything, and so we'll see what happens after this, what else we can create from my life now,
We're gonna
whatever.
have another part two now to this one.
Exactly.
How long does it take you to like actually write these songs and put this album together, this project?
This was a record that just kind of wrote itself because,
Yeah.
I just had put out the Beatles to the Bluebird Cafe, and
Yes.
that album, once I was over in Liverpool and had my picture taken with the Beatles statue, and I was wearing a Bluebird sweatshirt, And when I saw the picture, I thought that's a great title for a song, From the Beatles to the Bluebird, because Garth and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Bluebird and if Tomorrow Never Comes.
Yes.
So I came home and I didn't have any titles or any ideas, but I just started writing that. And that took about 3 months to get everything the way I wanted it. And this one just kind of came out really quick. I had those two people pass away and I wanted to write songs about them.
Mhm.
And before I knew it, all these other songs were kind of banging on my head to come out. And my wife at the time, her daughter was going to have a baby and she was having some problems. So she was over there a lot. And then the baby came and she was over there a lot. And so I had all this free time and these songs just wouldn't let me be. They just wanted to come out. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so in that free time, so it probably took about a month for all those songs to be written.
Amazing. You're amazing. I always knew you were. Well, tell our viewers how we can get this amazing album because it's just amazing.
Well, the place I try to send everybody is Apple Music because they pay better than anybody else does, and everybody just about goes to Apple. But I'm on everywhere there is, Amazon and YouTube, Spotify. Also, KentBlazy.com. You can get them through there. You can get them through CD Baby, get them through TuneCore,
Oh,
and these days you just kind of got to be out there everywhere you can be out there, and if you come to a live show, I still bring CDs and people still
yay.
buy them. So, you
Cool.
know, we'll just keep doing it that way till we can't do it that way anymore.
Well, I look forward to my autograph one. I always
You
love
got
them.
it. You got
Yay.
that.
Don't be jealous, folks. He'll probably autograph one too. Buy it from him personally. Right,
That's
Kent?
right. That's right.
I'm not always that special.
Well, we will get you one. Just tell me how to get it to you and it'll come in the mail. The crazy thing is I do sell a lot in the mail, but the post office loses about
I,
1/4 of them. It's
it's
just crazy.
terrible.
Yeah.
What's happening with them?
I don't know. It doesn't ever show up there, but it never comes back to me. And I always put the return address on there and everything
Yes.
else. So now it's about I want to start taking them to FedEx or something and get them tracked.
Yeah.
Because
Like, oh my goodness.
yeah,
And see, now that's going to make people want to download them. And I don't want to download them. I want it. I want the
I
little
know.
jewel.
Well, and kids are buying CDs again, but not to listen to the CDs, but to be able to have the information to look at the
Oh,
album
yeah.
cover, look who played on it, who wrote the songs, and
Yes.
you don't get that any other way.
I
And it
know.
was something
Oh,
we grew up with. That was such a treat to be able to know who wrote the songs and look at the album covers, and everything was so cool. And it's kind of a different world now.
I went from the 8-track, which had the picture and stuff, then a
Yep.
cassette, thought, this is so little, but you still had that little. And then when I got CDs, I was like, oh, look at this. It opens up,
I know. It was awesome. And
right?
uh, and that's why a lot of people are going back to vinyl. And
Yes, vinyl. Hmm.
but there's like a 6 to 8 month wait to get vinyl done these days. There's so many
Really?
people doing it. Yeah. And well, this great friend of mine, songwriter, singer Leslie Satcher, she did her last record and made it vinyl. And she was selling them, when we were playing in town, but she said, they're really a pain to carry around out on the road. You got to have a suitcase just for your CD. I mean, yeah, for your albums because they're so
Yes,
big.
that's
So I thought,
true.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm going to stick with CDs.
yeah, for sure. We appreciate that. Well, what are you working on currently?
Just got a bunch of shows coming up talking about
Mhm.
this record and playing it. People can hear it and doing a lot of interviews. Thankful for people like you and just getting out there and working it while I can and having fun doing it, especially when I can play with these guys I'm playing with. We've got some
Oh,
gigs next weekend too, and then they're back out on the road with John Party. But I have another band who'll play with me when they're gone. So I'm a lucky guy.
that's good. Well, we appreciate that you took the time. We are going to put this interview up on we have a YouTube channel now, the Hollywood Times Official, and we'll be putting that up as well as an article, in there too, so it gets embedded in there. But we do appreciate you taking the time. It's great to see you again, and hope to hear from you soon with another album or
Yeah,
CD.
I'm starting to
Working on
work
that
on it.
book.
That's right. Well, I appreciate all you do for me and all the other songwriters and artists that are out there that
Yeah.
you give us a forum and a platform to be able to reach people. And that's what the music's all about.
Yeah, we want Hollywood to know that there's a Nashville. You know, we have music here, but
Oh,
come on, we want
we're
country.
still here, and I tell people they ain't run me off yet. So
That's good to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, well, you have a great day. We appreciate being with us.
Well, I had a great day already because I got to talk to you.
Ooh, and I got to talk to you about this amazing album. Oh, it's
Yep.
really good.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for sharing
much.
that. We
All right. I
appreciate
hope
it.
the rest of your day is even easier than this.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.